Welcome to this video, which is an exploration of this. An Orcs and Goblins Army book from Warhammer from, 1996 is the copyright. This is the book which I used for my armies back in the day. So there's a load of nostalgia, and I'm just going to take you through the book, what's in there, pictures, stories, all sorts of things. So do stick around and we'll go through the book together. But yeah, let's check this out. I want to be a little bit careful with it because, I don't want to like break the spine or anything. But this is from 1996. That's when the copyright is. There's some awesome goblins with squig in this art, and it has. I don't know. I haven't owned an army book or a codex or whatever they call it for quite a long time now. So I don't know if it kind of fits the same theme, but it has some painted pictures of armies, and it's really interesting to see the different like style of painting that they did back in the day. I love the old goblin green bases. You can spot them around here, but that top one is the Savage Orc Boys and Goblin Wolf Riders on the Warpath. But you can see that these archers in the background are some that I showed during the stream last week. I had some of them. And if we look down here, I've also got lots of goblins somewhere. I also have some of these trolls. Yeah, it is. Oh, there's a little thing of the snotlings. Amazing. And so the netters and clubbers for the goblins. I painted some squigs quite recently, actually. I'll have to dig them out at some point and put together some like photos of the different old Games Workshop stuff. But yeah, just seeing these painted pictures, I'd like to imagine that this is what it looked like when I fielded my army back in the day, but it didn't. It looked nothing like this. It looked kind of like someone had put their entire army on the field and then just poured paint over it. Although actually, to be fair, a lot of my army at any given time wasn't painted anyway, so it didn't quite even live up to that. Baldry GM says, never mind about the different measurements and things. I have a chef that does not understand the difference between volume and mass. Oh dear. Our machines work with centimetres squared volume, and he thinks that number should be the same as on the scale, mass, kilograms. Wouldn't volume be centimetres cubed, and centimetres squared would be area? I don't want to be difficult. It's a long time since I did maths, although I did do a little bit of maths at uni. The Goblin Spearmen of +1 foot damage. Yes, indeed. These goblins down here, considering that they were plastic. Yeah, it's early. No, don't worry. Don't worry, Ball GM. It is simply cute. Yeah, given everything that I've been saying so far, not a problem at all. I just kind of wanted to prove a little bit that I wasn't, completely devoid of any hope with these things. Not a problem at all. So these goblins down here are they're the plastic kind. They are the old plastic, which is a little bit brittle, but if you manage to stand on one straight on top of the goblin, straight on top of the spear, you ended up in a lot of trouble. Hello, Carlos. Very nice to see you. Very nice to see you. We are looking at this very old classic Orcs and Goblins Army book, which I managed to pick up this week. Which is, a blast from the past. This is the army book that I used to use when I was playing Orcs and Goblins back in the 90s. It's copyright 1996. So we are going back. Wow, what's that? 25 years now? I'm probably messing that up as well. No, what year are we in? 2021. Yeah, 25 years back. Wow. Doesn't time fly when you're herding Orcs and Goblins? And it has some very cool art as we go through. There's a lot of kind of line art. You don't really see this very much anymore in books. I don't know if it's because they've changed the printing technique, but you used to find in books that they would have the basic pages like this, which would only have black and white on them, and then you would have glossy pages which would have the colour on them, which is kind of what you've got here. So it's kind of a bit like it's not quite so much like that. But you used to find like a book with just like the centre page was all the pictures, because that was where they would have the glossy pages, particularly in like biographies and things. I used to find that. So there's a lot of the kind of black and white art. So that's There's a nice goblin on his wolf there. Very cool. And let's see, we've got a nice map. The Dominion of the Orcs. Let's see, actually, let's try. Let's see if I lift this up a little bit, we can hopefully get the entire map on there. There we go. So this is the Dominion of the Orcs. So there's the Empire up here. The Reichland, as it were. I always find it funny that even now in like Age of... I guess, I don't know whether it's really in Age of Sigmar so much, but in fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, the like fake German names for everything in the Empire. Yeah, always amuses me. But yeah, so we've got the Wolflands over here. Dead Rock Gap, Mount Grimfang, a goblin lair called Mount Silverspear by dwarves. There you are. Mount Grey Hag, there's another goblin lair there. So I think the Orcs and Goblins kind of focused around this mountain range, which is also, there's a lot of dwarven stuff here. So the Dwarf Hold of Karak 8 Peaks, the Dwarf Hold of Karak Asul, and the ruins of Karak Azgal. It feels very... there's a lot of Lord of the Rings elements in here, unsurprisingly. But yeah, lots of other kind of cool things going on as well. Red Eye Mountain. So there's a Night Goblin lair all the way up here. All the way down here. The Marshes of Madness. There's an Orc fort over here. So yeah, kind of running down this mountain range is clearly the Orc and Goblin range. But yeah, clearly kind of interspersed with the dwarves. There's a dwarf there. As I say, the dwarves have a name for that mountain. There's Orc Fort, Dwarf Hold. Yeah, they're up close and personal, the Orcs and the dwarves, which is interesting. I don't think I ever really, even back in the day when I was playing them, I'm not sure that I knew as much of the lore as maybe I could have done. So I'm definitely gonna have a read of some of this stuff. There's some good lore in here, along with some good art. But yeah, we've got the Orc history section. I'm obviously not going to read these things in great detail, but some Grom the Paunch. I love Grom the Paunch. So I don't know how well this translates into other languages, but paunch is like if you've got a chubby stomach, you've got a paunch. So it's basically talking about here who's a bit fat. But I think the idea is because he was powerful, he could be a bit fat. But I have somewhere Grom the Paunch on his war chariot, so I'll have to try and get that put together at some point. I'm getting the passion for doing all of these really old Warhammer projects now. It's not like I don't have other things to do, but obviously I have these things around, so that's not a problem. Bellorian says, it's interesting how the Empire stuff often frame the Orcs and Goblins as pretty much their biggest enemy. And from the Orc side, the Empire is one small bit at the top, and the main enemy is the Dwarves. Yeah, it is interesting. The Empire kind of, I think, well, the Empire kind of saw everyone around them as against them, didn't they? Because they were anti-Orcs and Goblins. Obviously, the Chaos Wastes, are they anywhere around here? The Chaos Wastes to the north? I'm not really sure. Maybe someone with a better knowledge of these things can help me. Because obviously the kind of... It's not a very well hidden analogy to Europe. So the Empire, everything is German or faux German. So is, the German Empire, the Reichsland, Bretonia, which is very French, is roughly where France would be. It's to the west of the Reichsland. Yeah, it's not terribly well hidden analogy. But so the Chaos Wastes are north of the Empire, so like Scandinavia. That's so I guess it's kind of like the Vikings, maybe, because there are some of the old Chaos were a bit. Obviously, they also had like weird monstrosities and things like that. But so yeah, Chaos Wastes are up further north. I don't know what that would make the Orcs and Goblins. I suppose it would make them like, I don't know, Italian or something. I'm not going to try and do a bad Italian accent for my orcs from now on, or whatever. But more like the Mediterranean. I guess you could arguably say it's going down further than that towards like North Africa or something like that. I'm sure people have talked in detail about the history of orcs and racist connotations and things like that. But certainly, I mean, this feels more like kind of the Southern Alps, I suppose, going down towards there. Obviously, I don't want to read too much into it on the basis of the geography of these things. I'm not actually suggesting that the people who created Warhammer thought that the people of the Southern Alps were orcs or anything. But it's interesting to kind of read those things in those terms. And I know we've talked before, Belurian and I, about what they called the lizard men, which come from the New World in this, which is also a term that was given to, quite colonialistically, of course, to the Americas, and that's where the lizard men come from. And there are lots of kind of Central and South American themes going on in the iconography, the depictions of the lizard men. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Dark Elves also come from over that way, don't they? So the Dark Elves are America, I think, like the USA, but I'm not sure what that has to say about anything. Anyway, I should probably stop talking about real-world geography in the Warhammer world. I'm sure that there are inspirations that they took from this, but I think it's obviously reductive to talk too much in terms of, this is what they thought about people from different areas. But I think it's interesting to look at. Pete is here for a hydrate. Lovely. I will flick back to where I was. So this was Grom the Paunch. Grom the Paunch of Misty Mountain. Right. Where's Misty Mountain? Now we need to go and find that on the map. Right, Misty Mountain. Someone will probably find it on their screen before I can find it in the real thing. Misty Mountain. There we go. He's down there by the South Sea, the Sour Sea. I do beg your pardon. Right, let me do my hydrate. I will have a coffee and a water because it's a coffee chat and mini stream. Oh, very nice. There we go. But yeah. There you go, Pete. I think you used up the bulk of your hydration points the other day on the Vermintide stream, where I had to do, I think it was 17 hydrates in one stream, which was pretty extreme. But we got there. Right. So we got to Grom the Paunch of Misty Mountain. Oh, look at this. Some more cool art. So this is there's like there's troll back here, orc. You can see some little goblins down at the front. Oh, still got lots left, says Pete. Okay, I'll be on my guard just in case. There's also quite a cool, it's a much smaller illustration over here, but you can see a ship here, but it has like a pig's head on the front, which is very cool. A boar's head, perhaps. Yeah. So, squigs. Belurian will have to make sure he's prepared for the esports tavern. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you've got plenty of hydration fluids around. I love a good squig. You can't go wrong with a good squig. Important events in orc history. I'm not going to read through all of this either right now on the stream, but I love a well thought out like backstory history of a fantasy thing, like a fantasy race. Pete is at work, so not much chatting, just listening. Okay, well, you are very welcome in whatever capacity you're here, Pete. So I hope work is going well for you. I love a well thought out backstory of a fantasy thing. I'm going to have a look at, obviously I've said I'm going to have a look at the geography of the orcs and goblins, but I'm also going to have a look at this good timeline. Yeah, good timelines and maps, always fascinating. Yeah, and I will undoubtedly be switching backwards and forwards between here, where it's like, the Battle of Death Pass. Where's Death Pass? Better go and check that out. I'm very much likely to be nerding out over this a little bit later on. I might live tweet my reading of the book or something. Yeah, fun times. Right. Let's have a look. Oh, Animosity. Oh. So, this was... Belurian says, that was something I always did when reading fantasy novels, going back and forth with the map that was normally at the front. Yeah, my one was more because I have a horribly bad memory. Books which have normally at the end they have a dramatis personae section, which is basically all the characters in the book. I would find them super useful because I would never remember from one chapter to the next who everyone was. So I could read a name and I would think, I know we've had this person mentioned before. Let's flick to the back of the book. Ah, yes, okay, so they're related to this person. It's when you get to novels like Game of Thrones or something, which has about 1 million characters. Yeah, die reading the Silmarillion. Yeah, I get paper cuts from having to flick backwards and forwards so much. I have read the Silmarillion, but it was quite a long time ago, so I don't remember anything about it because exactly the same problems as we've just been saying. I say I've read the Silmarillion. I'm not sure I've read 100% of the content of the Silmarillion because the Silmarillion is not really a novel. I kind of read bits and pieces of it. I think I read different stories. I read sections of it. I think I read about 3/4 of it at the time, something like that, and intended to go back and read more. But I think the beauty of it's almost a gospel. Well, on the Gospels aren't that long because they're only one small part of the Bible. But yeah, the Gospel according to J.R.R. I literally had what his name stood for in the quiz the other week, and I've already forgotten what they are. I remember that the middle R stood for rule, but that doesn't really help me. Yes, I think I kind of read the bits of the Silmarillion which really grabbed me and related to bits that I was kind of interested in. But that's John Ronald Rule. Oh, there you go. So I was wrong about which the R was. That was the last R. John Ronald Rule Tolkien. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate that. Animosity. Love that about Orcs and Goblins, says the board GM. I lost most of the battles thanks to Animosity. Loved it. Always RPG'd the fights in my own army. That is amazing. Yeah, I'll be honest, it was one of those ones that when I was a kid, I found it... I did kind of find it funny, but at the same time, it can absolutely just totally destroy your army. So essentially... the way Animosity worked in this is, at the start of your turn, you must test for each Orc and Goblin mob as described above. So I think they called regiments mobs in this, so I think that's each regiment. Starting on one side of the table and working through your army, roll a d6 for each unit. If the die roll is 2 or more, the unit passes the test and may fight normally this turn. If the dice roll is a 1, then the unit has been affected by Animosity. To determine what the affected unit does, roll a d6 and consult the Animosity table. So essentially, you rolled 1d6. If it was a 1, you rolled again. And then if you rolled a 1 on that second die, you got get 'em, which basically means they attack your own team. 2 to 5, they're kind of having a fight amongst themselves. And then a 6... means that they actually charge towards the nearest enemy. But when you're feeling unlucky in your dice rolls and you have a number of units and you just keep rolling ones, it's quite demoralising when you're in that situation. I also the other thing that I always remember about playing Orcs and Goblins is that particularly Goblins had very low morale scores. Let's find the actual army section. I feel like they had like 5. Leadership is what it was called at the time, I think. Yeah, so they had 5, which means that if they had something which caused them to take a morale test, you rolled 2d6. Someone can correct me if I've got this wrong, but I think it's you rolled 2d6 and you had to get that number or lower. So obviously 5 is quite hard to get. And one of the things that caused you to take a morale check is when another unit ran away. So what you could sometimes have is one unit decides, I think it's like you lose half of your regiment or something and you have to take it. So they run away. Then the unit next to them is like, oh no, our friends have run away. We better run away too. And you just have a wave of all your units just deciding to run away because one of them had a morale failure. So there were certainly challenges to playing Orcs and Goblins back in the day with Animosity and low morale things. But yes, it added a level of interest. I think part of the reason I was never really interested in playing as like the Empire is because it was all a bit too simple, I guess. So you could tell your tell your troops what to do and they would just do it. And it's like, well, where's the fun in that? You want to have slightly random effects and things like that. And that was one of the things that I simultaneously loved about Orcs and Goblins, but also did find a little frustrating at times. Yeah, definitely a downward spiral, says Carlos. Absolutely. Bellarian says, I once managed to make all of my brother's army run away at once with that, even though they were dwarves, so had really high morale. He just rolled terribly. Yes, Bellarian's brother was slightly renowned among our kind of group of friends and... I was going to say friends and brothers. That sounds very mean. But like my brother was very good friends with Bellarian's brother, and we were all kind of played together and things like that. But yeah, he was pretty renowned for his bad dice rolling. I might get this wrong, but I feel like he once rolled 7 on 66 or something like that. Remind me of the exact numbers, Bellarian, but it was something along those lines. Yeah, he was famous for it. Right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Our Night Goblin Shamans. You can see him down there doing his shaman-y things. There he is. Doom Divers. Doom Divers are classic. So a lot of armies in Warhammer Fantasy had some kind of artillery. So like the Empire had cannons, the High Elves had like repeater bolt throwers or something. Something along those lines. Goblins had Doom Divers, which basically means they strapped some fabric wings to a goblin and fired him out of a catapult to try and hit the other team, which was amazing. They were not very reliable, but they could do a lot of damage actually, because they had big spikes on their head. So if they actually hit something, they could do a lot of damage, but they were really not very reliable. Bellarian says, I was annoying him when we were playing something where he was DM. Maybe we were playing a version of Warhammer Quest with the DM. Yeah, I think we did do that sometimes. So he decided to do 10d6 damage to my 12 hit point character and failed to kill me, says Bellarian. Amazing. And Carlos says, my brother recently rolled 13 damage on a fireball and he was unhappy. So fireball is 66. So that's an average of 21 damage, I think. So yeah, that's a pretty impressively low result as well. But yes, I am a firm believer in like the randomness of dice and the fact that there's no such thing as, you know, unlucky dice or whatever. Or obviously weighted dice are a different thing. But it is amazing when you see someone who just seems to have consistently bad luck with their rolling. It's 8d6 is it for a fireball? Oh, okay. Which would mean that the average would be 28. I don't know why I thought it was 66 for a fireball. There we go. Failed my nerd check. I apologise. I'll hand in my credentials at the front desk. My first nickname in the club was Bad Dice, as most of the time rolled the wrong numbers. My first roll on a D100, a 100-sided dice, not 2d10, was a 1. Wow. So we're playing a homebrew campaign at the moment, D&D. Well, we play it when we can. It's a bit of a... yeah, that's true. It is very good for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay because you have to roll as low as possible on a D100 for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But we got given a weapon which has a 1% chance to basically kill whatever it hits. So if you hit with it, you then roll a D100, and on a 100, it instantly kills whatever you're fighting. And I have this weapon, and so obviously so I shouldn't say obviously. If you're rolling 2 d10s to get for a d100, 100 is all the zeros. So it's 0, 0, 0. And the number of times I've rolled 0, 0 and then between 1 and 5 is just like infeasibly large. I've probably used it about 10 times, and I would say 6 or 7 of those times I've been within like 2 or 3 of the right thing, but I have yet to actually get anyone. Bull GM says, and I do not know if this edition of the Army book told the lore about the Doom Diver. It was invented for goblins to spy on the enemies. They just didn't think about how to get the goblins back. That's amazing. Let's have a quick look through here. That is fantastically a brilliantly goblin way of doing things. Let's see. Goblin. Blur, 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 blur. Oh yeah, this machine, a small but powerful catapult, lobs goblins high into the air from where they can spy out the land ahead. Of course, the information they glean is of little value if the goblin is pulverised as he impacts with the ground. To help keep the goblin alive, if not exactly intact, a whole variety of life-preserving techniques were originally developed. These included tying lots of cushions to the goblin, making parachutes, and kitting him out with wings. Although none of these methods have ever proved completely successful, the idea of having wings appealed to the goblins best of all, and the other methods rapidly fell out of favour. In any case, goblins have a marked tendency to bounce, so casualties are probably fewer than one might reasonably expect. Oh dear. It didn't take long for some bright spark to try out the Doomdiver catapult in a battle. Fantastic. There you are, yeah. So it was to get aerial reconnaissance. Only, yeah, it didn't work great. Brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh, I've got a snotling pump wagon somewhere as well. I need to get that together. Yeah, it's like a little death machine piloted by just all the snotlings. And I think the idea is it's kind of like one of those like things that run on train tracks that you only ever see in movies, where they have to like pump up and down to get it moving along. Which is why it's called the pump wagon. But that's another fantastic invention, the snotling pump wagon. Yeah. Loss of Doomdivers. As discussed above, there are assumed to be a number of willing Doomdivers ready and waiting to step forward and be catapulted into the air. There you go. Oh, man. Yeah. So they just have a willing line of replacement. It's not even that they're forced to do it. It just does it. Bellerin says, I know in Gorka Morka it went faster the more snotlings were on it, but I don't know if that's true in Warhammer. Good question. It says its movement is 2d6 in here. Yeah, it doesn't look like that changes based on number of snotlings, but it's just completely random. You can't choose how far it goes. It just goes. But because it has spikes and all these offensive things on the front, if it just charges into the enemy, then that's fine because it will just do lots of damage. So yeah, it's another example of like weaponry that's not necessarily brilliantly thought through by the goblins, but works in a limited number of instances. Dear. Tactics. Oh, we don't need tactics, all right? But yeah, there's a whole section on how to play them. The different Black Orcs are the most reliable. Oh, Black Orcs are not affected by animosity. Wow. Big Uns are cheaper than Black Orcs, but don't have an extra point of leadership. Orc Boar Boys are the best troops you can get. The War Boar is a dangerous beast whose charge puts him in the same category as a fully armoured, lance-armed knight. There you go. Orc Boys are your standards. Yeah, then we've got the Orcs and Savage Orcs, Goblins, Night Goblins, Squig Hunter and Netters. Gorka Morka had rules that you could have as many things on a vehicle as could possibly balance on the model, but if they fell off, then they actually fell off. So I remember balancing lots of snotlings in crazy ways. Yes, I'm not sure I ever played Gorka Morka. I don't know why. I don't know why there was this oversight in what I was doing. But yes, I can completely imagine that being the case as you try and somehow hook an axe around another one so that it doesn't fall off or whatever. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So we've got cavalry, we've got wolf riders, spider riders, chariots, snotlings, trolls, ogres, a giant. A giant is good fun, but frighteningly unreliable. I mean, that sounds about right. Then we've got some characters. In the last edition of Warhammer Fantasy, says Paul Jim, you could even buy sails for the pump wagon to get D6 faster. Wow, that is amazing. I have to say, I know I've talked about this a little bit before, but I am really looking forward to when they bring back Warhammer Fantasy. I think we're still looking at a couple of years' time probably, but there's something about Warhammer Fantasy that Age of Sigmar just doesn't quite scratch the itch in the same way for me. But obviously not everything is designed for me. Size of the text on the screen, I read that as Squig Herders and Nutters. Where are we? What's that? Squig Herders and Netters. Yeah, Netter units. Yes, I think I think the actual text is not coming through terribly clearly for you guys, is it? But hopefully you're getting the kind of gist of it and the images and things like that. War machines, bolt throwers and snotling pump wagons. Yeah. Characters, monsters, magic items. The pictures are coming through really well. That's good. That's good. I mean, only when I actually get them on the screen. But there you go. There's a guy on his boar. There's another section on tactics. I feel like people don't understand how to play Orcs and Goblins if you're going too much for the tactical route. You just throw them at them and hope something sticks. Oh yeah, Orc and Goblin banners. That's very cool. I should try and recreate some of these designs at some point with freehand. Yeah, that might be a little. Oh, no, that one's pretty doable, right? That one's alright. But yeah, some of these are pretty extreme. But they would be awesome to actually be able to replicate. I think I'd have to work a little bit on my my freehand, because normally when you're doing it on a banner, it's kind of very crenellated. That's not really the word I'm looking for, but it will do. And so it is quite hard to get the perspective of some of these more detailed drawings right on something like that. So yeah, that would be a challenge for me. But there's another picture. I mean, that definitely to me captures the essence of what I imagine it's like to fight against Orcs and Goblins, which is just an absolutely mass of just ridiculousness. You can't see anything. It's just goblins for miles. I really like they had those in there with the idea to photocopy them and colour them as well. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't really thought of that. Yeah. These black and white banner designs have been provided for you to photocopy then paint. Some designs you may wish to photocopy twice, once for each side of the banner, e.g. Gron's banner. Use the colour photographs shown elsewhere in this book as guides for colour schemes. I genuinely hadn't even thought of that. It's clearly too early in the morning for me. So, yeah. But no, that's a really good idea. You could still do that now. I mean, paper is not the best material for doing that kind of thing with. And actually, if you did it with paint, like acrylic paint on paper, to me, doesn't tend to work terribly well because the water content will seep in and, you know, you get it behaving not quite how you want and things. But you could definitely do that. I mean, honestly, these days, you could even scan it in, colour it in using like paint software or whatever, and then print it out afterwards. You could absolutely do that kind of thing. Yeah, that sounds like a fun idea. I might give that a go. If anyone then wants any of that, I feel like because this book is very much out of print, I don't feel too bad sharing some bits and pieces like that. So if anyone would like an Orc banner or something, let me know, and I'm happy to do my best to try and scan it and send it to you. I obviously wouldn't do that with any of the modern books because, you know, I'm a good boy. I'm not a lawbreaker. But yeah, there's definitely some cool stuff there. I do like the idea. I'm really not very good at digital art. I mean, I'm not good at 2D art at the best of times, to be honest with you. But I'm not very good at digital art. But I like the idea of using that to kind of colour in some of these things. That would be awesome. And actually, I've got a great idea. I've got a Night Goblin banner dude here. So what I might do is get one of these banners and, well, actually, I'd have to scale it down, funnily enough. But because he's a goblin, you can, you know, I could give him one of these nice little goblin-y banners. Forest Goblin banner, no. But yeah, I might do that. Oh, that'd be good fun. Collar says, it's like I don't feel guilty of pirating Rugby 08 and Battle of Middle-earth games. Yeah, and I think, obviously, I don't know all the rules of legality and things, but I think when it's actually impossible to get a game any other way, and so you couldn't actually give money to the company for it, even if you wanted to, I do feel like that does slightly change the playing field. Do not take legal advice from me on how to get games or anything like that. I'm not an expert in these things, but yes, there are definitely some very, very older games which still have replay value for nostalgia or for whatever it is. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely at some point, again, I don't know when I'm going to have time, but I'm definitely going to have a go at creating a nice banner for this dude. Yeah, it's definitely not legal advice, just a moral compass. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some would argue I'm not even really qualified for that, but it's all good. Right, some painting guides. Here we go. Orc shaman riding a war wyvern. That looks so derpy to me. I don't know what it is, but it's something. But at the same time, I would absolutely love to have one of them to paint. I don't have one. I never had one. I don't think I ever had an orc shaman riding a war wyvern. I think I did have an orc rock lobber. I think, and obviously a lot of these orc boys are kind of the basic ones, but then there's also some extras, bits and pieces. But there's actually somewhere, here's some forest goblins. It looks so top heavy. Yeah, it does a bit. It does. And it's only got 1 foot on the ground. 1 foot on the ground. I feel like I would have to, you'd have to do some work on that to make it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming it's metal. I don't actually know, because as I say, I didn't have one. But yeah, it does look really unbalanced, doesn't it? It reminds me... Jabberwocky is how it would be spelt in Jabberwocky, I think. Might be double R. As in Lewis Carroll. Beware the Jabberwock, my friend, the teeth that bite and the whatever else and the thingy bobs. And the snicker snack of the Vorpal sword. Yeah. That one was metal, says the Ball Gem. So this was metal. Yeah, Jabberwocky. So I think it's Jabberwocky, but I'm not sure. So yeah, it was metal. It definitely looks so, yeah, I don't know, precarious. But there you are. In Brazilian Portuguese, it was Jaguardate. That's probably not how you pronounce it, but there you go. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, but Bellurian agrees that he thinks I had a rock lobber. So good morning, Wickedy. Very nice to see you. Very nice to see you after your late night playing Gromit on Gromit's Adventures. Was it? That's right, isn't it? Yeah. I stopped in for that, but to be honest with you, I'm an old man now, so it was late in the day for me. But it was nice to see you enjoying a game. Yeah. So we've got some orc boys. Forest goblins. There's definitely I think I maybe had like one dude who's a spider rider, but so these I feel like the standard of painting. I'm trying to see how to phrase this. I feel like the standard of painting, even amongst like Games Workshop professionals, has increased because honestly, this guy. Let's see if I can get a better picture of it coming through for you. This guy just looks a bit like, I don't know, a bit basic. So yeah, I feel like the standard of painting has gone up a little bit. You know, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, of course, because that's not my shtick. But yeah, it's interesting to see these older minis. There is also somewhere in here, there's actually what they call a painting guide. Let's have a look. I've realised it's 10:45 and I've barely gone through any of this at all. Let's have a quick look. So I'll just flick through some more in a minute, but I just want to find this painting guide, which I know is in here. Wickedy says, yeah, I can't stream till a bit later on a Friday as the small one is at guides till 9. I will sort all my stream times and do a proper schedule at some point. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Then we can know what's coming. But yeah, if you're interested in checking out some bits and pieces, do check out Wickedy's Twitch channel. Yes, yesterday was Gromit's Grand Adventure. No, what was it called? What's the actual game called? I was paying attention. No, I enjoyed the gameplay, but I just don't have a memory for what the game was called. Why have I missed this painting guide? Oh, here it is. It's right in front of me. So yeah, it kind of talks you through the different stages, which is interesting of doing these things. I mean, I'm intrigued that it goes stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, completely different miniature in all of these. I think it's it is showing you the boss of the regiment, but it's not. Wallace and Gromit's Last Resort. There we go. That's what it is. I saw a lot of rain, and it did kind of make me think that maybe it was set in Scotland, but you know, that's all good. Chief Gorefang and Rotgut. Love it. I'm not sure who Rotgut is in this instance, but yeah. Oh, no, Gorefang. I've read an and in there. Chieftain Gorefang and Rotgut. Deary me. Not enough caffeine this morning. Definitely not enough caffeine. Primer, base coat, wash, and dry brush. The old Warhammer way painting. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think it's kind of... you you paint it in the base coat, and then you add a wash, and then you add a few little highlights. It basically is that. Oh, Bellary Redeemed Hydrate. Yep, trying to get me caffeinated. I like it. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is very different, I think, from the current Games Workshop way of painting, which I've said before. I think the current Games Workshop way of painting focuses very heavily on things like edge highlighting, which is not really how I enjoy painting. It works very well for, I've said this before I think on here, but it works very well for a Games Workshop miniature which is like all edges, so you can do some edge highlighting. I actually haven't on here, but you could do that on there because it's all edges. If you did that on some of the other miniatures, like edge highlighting on this guy that I'm painting out from Reaper, you're not going to get very many edges to do. So yeah, it's a very Warhammer way of doing things. They are very edgy. Yeah, they're edgelords. That's what they are. It's definitely different. It's interesting that is a much faster way of painting that they recommend when the armies were full of lots of identical miniatures. Yeah, and I think I feel like that's kind of where when they brought back contrast paints, not brought back contrast paints, brought in contrast paints. So these are the ones that you kind of supposedly put one layer on and then you're kind of done with it. This was kind of designed for, if you're doing a big army with lots of the same minis, use this stuff, get it kind of done, kind of a little bit like this, to this kind of level, and then you can do a bit more complex stuff on the leaders of your army, which I think makes a lot of sense. I think doing some of the techniques that they recommend now on all of these many minis would be a bit silly. They're not like a pizza cutter, as they still have some point. Yeah, yeah. You couldn't just roll one of the minis round. It would be fun. It was also the way they wanted people to paint, as it's a quick way to paint and buy new minis to paint. Yeah, I guess it is. So this was a full-on army game. I guess that they now view Age of Sigmar a little bit more as a skirmish game. So there is fewer minis, so more time to paint each one, more cost per mini, obviously all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it does reflect, as Bull Gem and Valerian are both saying, it reflects the changing nature of the game. I think the way they've done the change of the things. We've got a battle report. Well, not quite a battle report, but and there's an orc army. Yeah, very cool. Oh, and now we're up against Thorgrim's dwarf command. Boo! Those dwarfs, boo! We hate the dwarfs. So this is a full-on battle report. So deployment maps, turn reports, all kinds of exciting things. Again, interesting to read through at some point, but I won't go into too much detail. But you can see all the nice pictures here. I do like the interesting way they do this with the different banners representing the units. They've now realised that people keep buying minis whether or not they've already painted the ones they have. I feel like that was a barbed comment, Valerian. Are you suggesting that I don't need every single one of the miniatures that I own? I find that hard to believe. Yes. There we go. Oh, look at these. These are proper 90s photos of people, right? Jervis Johnson and Bill King. Yeah, if it's a barbed comment, it's against every miniature painter ever. Yeah, fair enough. I know earlier on, Ball GM, you said that you were cataloguing all the new minis from Bones 5, presumably putting them into your spreadsheet and things. So, yes, it is a known a known issue with miniature painters. It's certainly true to say that we like to buy miniatures and paint them. I mean, obviously I guess the painting them is not really the issue part. It's the buying so many minis, you never can paint all of them. But some goblins, some nice cave squigs, light goblins. I definitely had some stone trolls. I found, again, I think I said that I'd found like 95% of one of the dragons that I had. Similarly, I found about 95% of one of the trolls that I had. But I'll try and find some more and get some of these put together. With these older minis, I think I might aim to actually recreate some of these older painting looks as well. Ball GM says, yeah, doing the cataloguing. They arrived just in time. I only had a few unpainted minis left. Oh, phew, the Ball GM. That would have been horrendous. You could have run out and, then looked round and seen all the other ones. Run out. Yeah, I know. It is but at the same time, as hobbies go, I feel like there are worse things that you could obsessively spend your money on. Let's be honest. Some cool looking. This is an interesting way of doing different armies. So there's a band of orcs and stone trolls. This is night goblins at a river crossing. An orc war band. This is forest goblins and stone trolls clash with an army of wood elves. Yes, so you can see some of these wood elves at the front here. There's a tree man about to take on some stone trolls. I'll be honest, I hadn't really noticed this guy on his eagle or whatever, but even so, it feels like the wood elves are slightly outnumbered, but that's probably what they do for Orcs and Goblins books. There's your painting guide again. Some glyphs. So those again would be really cool to put on as tattoos. Okay, that's a random spam message in chat. Sorry, that was what was confusing me. Good, thank you, Bellerin. Yeah, and then we've got the actual stats for the different types. So we've got the orcs and the savage orcs with protective tattoos. Big uns and black orcs. Goblins and night goblins. Goblins were so very weak. But, yeah, well, that's good timing, because that's what I was about to talk about. Goblins themselves were so weak, but they made such a good, lure. It's like, oh, come and attack my goblin regiment. There's nothing going on here. Bosh, fanatics. And then your fanatics burst out, swinging their balls and chains, and absolutely annihilate some, very strong people who are coming in and trying to get you. They charge you with their big, strong infantry, and then you just take them out with fanatics. Always good fun. And then you get into because fanatics were quite expensive, I think. I don't remember exactly how costs in armies worked, to be honest with you. But so you could have a few regiments of goblins, but then they had to guess which ones were just full of fanatics and which ones weren't, and it put doubt in their mind about whether they should go in. Always about the psychological warfare, some of these things. Yeah, especially when playing against Dark Elves that are high-pointed but fragile. I remember Fanatics doing a lot of damage as Beleriand. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the thing is, Orcs and Goblins, you outnumbered your opponent because you had so many low-cost things on the battlefield. The issue was then, when they just cut the swathes through, as we were saying before, you had to take morale tests to make sure that all your people didn't run away, which was, unfortunate if that did happen, that you just lost half of your army. But yes, and there's Snotlings. Oh look, he's got his mushroom. That's the one that must have done in for Bellarian's character in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. That very Snotling. I apologise for triggering you like that, Bellarian. I do apologise. So we've got lots and lots of cool. Obviously, because this was an actual kind of army book. You had all of these army lists to actually allow you to... Bellarian has left the chat, yes. You can kind of build from there. Oh, here we go. Here's points. So you can have a Black Orc Warlord for 140 points. I think they've changed the point system now as well for Age of Sigmar. I'm not really sure. But yeah, lots of cool things to choose from. Lots of stats to go through. Oh, and some named people. Morglum Necksnapper. Orglok the Horrible. I think I may have had that guy, actually. I may have had Morglum Necksnapper. The only good stunty is a dead stunty. And the only thing better than a dead stunty is a dying stunty who tells you where to find his mates. So there's a Morglum Necksnapper. I think stunty is what orcs call dwarves, I believe. So yes, clearly orcs and dwarves did not get on terribly well. Not big fans of each other. Oh, some magic items. Again, for photocopying. Morgul the Mangler. Love it. Love it. Some more lore to read through. Here we go. How to buy more miniatures. Collecting your own army is easy. Games Workshop products are available all over the world. Is he the one with the special boar I had two of? He could be. Yeah, he could be. He definitely had a pretty cool looking boar there. Morglum Neck Snapper. There we are. Yeah, I think he might be. I'll properly go through my collection at some point and check these things out. There we go. Oh, blisters of Savage Orc Ball Boys. Savage Orc Ball. Oh, it carefully doesn't have a price on these ones. I thought maybe these blisters would have prices on, but it doesn't. There we are. Yeah, these have had their prices taken off as well. Black Orcs plastic box set. Warhammer roster sheet. And then at the back we have a full, like, Orc and Goblin horde to entertain you. So yeah, we've got the guy on his wyvern, trolls. Why can I not? Squigs. There we go. I think his name is Skink. Some spider riders, fanatics, doom divers, bolt throwers, all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. Love it. Love it. Well, there you go. There is my loving tribute to this Orcs and Goblins army book. One of the things in it was just, whoa. Love it. Broad history of the Orc and Goblin races describes the careers of some of the most famous Orc and Goblin warlords, their rise to power, and their glorious path of their conquests and devastations. Very nice, yes.